Hello and welcome back to another episode of Come Over for Dinner. I'm Bess Hawthorne and I'm so excited you're joining me today. Today I'm joined by a very special guest. Her name is Maggie Sears and she is from Graham, Texas. She was recommended by her sister-in-law McCall, and these are some of the things that McCall has to say. She is an all-around amazing hostess. She throws a super fun fall party every year for a very large crowd, over 100 people in attendance usually. This comes with a massive scavenger hunt. They bring in porta potties and lots more. So we're definitely going to hear about that from her. McCall continues to say that her house is always ready for visitors and everyone always feels welcome. Maggie has been married to Travis for 15 years. They have 2 girls, 10 and 12, and she often hosts the family members after events that they attend, such as recitals, that sort of thing, which makes for very special family memories. And she and her husband have also renovated a house together. It was the house that Travis, her husband, grew up in with his 3 brothers. So we're going to hear some about that too. There's just so many things that I want to talk about. This house includes an amazing outdoor entertaining area that was part of the plan when they bought the house in order to be able to host people. So we're going to jump in and hear all the ways she does hospitality, all of her tips and amazing recipes. Welcome, Maggie.
Thank you, Bess.
Well, I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad we could connect, you in Texas and me in Idaho. Jump in and tell me a little bit more about yourself. I'm sure I missed lots of things. Tell me more about who you are and what you do.
Like you said, I've been married to my husband, Travis. We just celebrated 15 years in August. We have 2 girls, 10 and 12, and we homeschool them. I've had the joy of homeschooling them from the very beginning. Actually, they're doing schoolwork right now while I'm recording. We live in a small town in Northish, Texas. Like you said, we do live in a home that was my husband's when he was a kid, and we just, by God's grace and provision, got to buy that back after just a long story, and we're able to renovate it and make it a home that we love to just have our family and lots of friends in our community over in. I just love to garden and work outside, read, do stuff outside with our family. We like to camp and canoe, and the Lord has also blessed us with a really super community. Just to be in such a small town, we just feel so grateful for, we do have family close. My in-laws live right up the road from us, so our girls have a trail between their house and ours, and all the cousins do too. So it's really special. My family is only about an hour away. And then we just have a great church family and homeschool community that we're super grateful for. So we're thankful for where the Lord's brought us and what he's given us.
Yes, that is absolutely wonderful. It's fun to have a trail. That's life goals.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
For me, it's hard because some of my kids they're not all in the same place. So I would love a trail for all of the grandkids. For me, it's harder because they have to travel back to see some of them.
Yes. Yeah.
But
that's pretty special.
Very special. So tell me a little bit about your hospitality background, and then we'll jump into some of the specific gatherings that you plan.
Okay. So I am an only child. I come from a really small family. My grandparents, I grew up in the same town with them and have one cousin from that side. And so large family gatherings and stuff were just not a part of my background just by nature. My mom was always super great about making things special. So my friends were always welcome to come over. She made it special anytime friends would come over. So I observed that great at birthday parties and sometimes some fun holiday parties. And even through college, my parents have just always wanted to know my people and welcome them. They live in a tiny farmhouse about an hour from us, and they live on some land. And so it didn't matter. Friends would come and sleep on the couch or the floor. I think sometimes my grandparents' motorhome in the yard. They just always made a place for us to gather. So that was the specific brand of hospitality I was familiar with. My grandmother was always good about just the everyday hospitality. She cooked me, we call it grand spaghetti every time I came over, which is picky kid spaghetti with no sauce, butter, and Parmesan cheese. And so she always made that for me.
Basically
And
noodles.
then she would feed us. Correct, yes. But my girls still request it all the time. So funny. And then I do remember formal Sunday lunches at her house where there was the fiesta ware and placemats and glasses, and those were really special times. But I didn't have a large family. So college was really the first time I was a part of big hospitality. So we were a part of a church and a college ministry that made gathering really special. And so we got to observe, participate in, and then eventually help lead some larger events, college breakfasts, big ski trips. We got to spend time in homes of older couples, like mentor couples. So we ate supper with people who were just pouring into college kids. So I really got to observe hospitality in a different way there and even got practice in how do you do this? How do you feed 100 people? So that was really a gift for us. And then the first time I came home with Travis, we were dating, we met in college, there were people everywhere and there were kids riding scooters in the house and there were presents under the tree halfway up to the ceiling. I mean, it's such the opposite. And so getting to experience that kind of hospitality in a family I've just been able to observe my mother-in-law and aunts and cousins and ladies, feed the 5,000 and the logistics of that and the heart behind it. It's been a joy to watch that and even slip into, participating in that and learning. I've made some mistakes in it. I've brought some really apparently not up to par food to some gatherings that I still get teased about, which is okay. But we have a really good time, and there's
It
always,
sounds like a funny story.
oh yeah, there's always so much food, and just to get to be a part of that is really a blessing. And then also, currently, the church family that we're in just has a hospitality culture. It's not uncommon to be eating around somebody's table or gathering in the backyard for a barbecue or things. I still feel like I'm very much a student of hospitality. So getting to be in the homes of other families within our church and learn from them and watch. So kind of have a recipe of how I've learned and observed over the years.
It's great. So back to your dishes that didn't turn out so well. Did you recognize that because someone mentioned something or because they sat there and ate?
Oh, this is just a random story. Travis has a cousin who's really funny and not afraid to say anything. And apparently, I don't even remember this at all. So I went through a ultra crunchy stage when my girls were babies, and I was trying to figure out how to make everything clean. And I still, desire to do that. But apparently, I made a spice cake or something that didn't have sugar in it. It was applesauce sweetened or something. And his cousin was super excited to eat it, and he ate it and thought it was the nastiest thing he'd ever had before. So years later, he told me how terrible this was, and now he says he jokingly doesn't trust what I bring because of that. So I don't even remember it, but apparently I did.
At least he didn't tell you at the time.
Sure, I'd have been okay if he did.
I have lots of stories like that I've probably mentioned on here before, just little comments, or you realize when you taste it yourself, like, oh, that didn't turn out, or you take a full dish home, kind of learn as you go.
Yep.
You definitely get better.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's talk about some of the specific things you do at your home, and then we'll delve into some of the recipes that you love to serve. Specifically, the fall party. This will probably come out in the fall or winter. And so I want to hear a little bit about this. And especially coming from a small family, tell us how you learned, your recipe, so to speak, of learning from others in your community about hospitality.
So we've got two girls, and we were playing around in the creek one day reading a book, and we finished. And where we are in Texas, summer is usually deathly hot. And so the first hints of fall send us into just this frenzy of we want to open the windows and wear sweaters. And so we started feeling that in late September one day. And I said, girls, what if let's do a fall party? We're not super into gory Halloween-y type things, but like an old-fashioned fall party. And so we just started talking about it and dreaming up, and I think we made it happen a week later. And we did a scavenger hunt. My husband is super fun and able to think of really neat ideas on the fly. So we just sent out a text to everyone in our church and other people that we could think of and said, come over, dress up. We'll do a hayride. We'll do a scavenger hunt, made a food sign up. People brought chili and lots of different foods, and we just had a really good time. I think this October will be our fourth time that we've done it. And we try to just improve every time. Last year featured the first porta potties because the year before we had, I think, 130 people and we're on a septic system. So my husband said that many people cannot flush our toilet. So we had a couple of porta potties and yeah, we invite our whole church, our whole homeschool community, neighbors, and welcome others to bring people too that may need to come. It's a small town, so people know each other even if they don't go to the same church and things like that. So it ends up being just a lot of people that know each other. The scavenger hunt is the big thing. We live on 20 acres of it's wooded, but we've mowed trails all through the woods just for walking and things like that. And the scavenger hunt happens out there. There's lots of running and sweating and screaming that the kids do. And then we do just hook up a trailer of hay to our tractor, and my dad drives all the kids around and does a hayride throughout the party time. Lots of food. There is a costume contest. We do best family, best couple, best individual, and people are starting each year to kind of go more and more all out. And it's hilarious to see what people end up doing. And we have some friends that have a bounce house. So we borrow their bounce house and put it in the front for the little kids to enjoy the whole time. And kids are just kind of running everywhere and screaming and eating all the food. And we inherited with our place a merry-go-round, like a big old,
What?
like a, some people call it, we have friends that call it a roundabout, maybe. Anyway, we'd call it a merry-go-round, like a metal with handles that spins really fast. So there's kids on that the whole time.
Oh, okay. Like they had at the parks back in the day.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Old school playground
I
equipment.
was thinking like literal horses that you get on, and the ones at
Oh, no.
fairgrounds where or
Okay.
the local fair where
Uh-huh.
you're going around on the horses and the music's playing. I'm like, wow,
No, no,
that's
no,
pretty
no.
intense.
No, I guess I'd call that maybe a carousel. This a merry-go-round, just it spins around and kids push each other on
Yes.
it, and so we've got that and the
Okay, you're
sandbox and the
right.
tree house. So kids are everywhere, and parents just kind of we have fires going and fire pits, and everybody's just visiting and having a good time and eating and fellowshipping together. So it's we really enjoy it.
What a fun event. On the scavenger hunt, do you have teams or does everybody do their own thing? Like, how do you set that up?
So we've done it different each year. The first year we did it, dads were team captains and ran around and found clues hidden everywhere. And they ended up running several miles probably. And so we said, we're not going to do that to the dads the next year. So we've set up stations through the woods they have to find. We've set up letters that they have to find. And when they find all the letters, they come back and build the word and put it all together. So the first team back, there's always clues and rhymes and riddles they have to solve. It's pretty cutthroat.
Oh, that sounds so fun.
Yeah, it's a good
That
time.
reminds me of Survivor, that kind of type to solve things and beat the other team.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm sure there's lots of shows like that, but I remember Survivor from way back in the day. I think they're actually still going.
Uh-huh. Well, it's funny because we have to do it different every year. So I have no idea what we're going to do this year to make it different and unique. And it's really competitive. And, I'm sure people are cheating and there's a lot of things going on, but we do the best we can to make it fair and fun. And the kids are always worn out and have a really good time.
That's perfect. You
Yeah.
kind of want kids to be worn out. They have a
Mhm.
lot of energy. So all of the activity and running and playing is perfect for
Yes.
kids.
Yeah.
Them having to just sit and be still is not really going to work when you have a big crowd of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Our other fallish winter thing we do is, and this kind of just came spontaneously too, is so my husband grew up next door to his grandparents, same places. It's just bumped up a generation. My in-laws live there now. He kept an old car hood and would put it behind the lawnmower and just pull kids on the car hood all the time, all the cousins. So Travis has a big family on both sides. And so all the cousins would take turns being pulled around in this car hood. Well, we had a rare snow day a few years ago, and my husband said, we've still got a car hood. So we pulled the girls around on it. And the next year we had another one, and we said, let's invite I don't know, the whole church over and light a couple of fires and pull kids around on it. We had just moved up to our house and we're about to gut the whole thing. So everybody was able to just come inside the house because we were about to gut it. And somebody brought pizza from town and some cheap cocoa. And we warmed up and ate pizza and cocoa and then went back down to my in-laws where they've got an open field and just pulled kids around. And so kind of just accidentally became the thing. When it snows, all of the kids surround us and beg, "Are we going to your house for the snow day?" So that's what we do. Last year, I think my husband and my father-in-law pulled kids on two four-wheelers for 5 hours straight, just nonstop, dragging them around. So we don't let them come in the house anymore. We meet out in the shop, but it's super fun and just kind of an accidental tradition based on kind of what my husband grew
Yeah.
up doing and what we've got. So we did buy a second car hood at the junkyard. So we have two now that we can pull all the kids. So
That is so funny. In fact, I had never heard of that in my life before, but there was also a snow day in Texarkana, and my in-laws lived outside of Texarkana, not quite to Hope, Arkansas, a small town before you got there. And my brother-in-law also had access to a car hood and invited us out to their property, and I had no idea what I was getting myself in for. It was really fun, but he's also a bit of a daredevil. So he was trying to sling us around. If you imagine somebody doing that, say if you think about boating in an inner tube, they try to sling you and make
right.
and throw you off. He was trying to do that. I literally saw my life flashing before my eyes.
That's
Like, I'm
so
going to
fun.
die. Stop. Because you're on the ground and on metal. I'm like, I don't want to roll off of this thing and get hit I don't know. I'm sure it was all safe and fine. And I ended up hanging on, but it was for dear life, literally for dear life. And it was so much fun. And my kids had a
Oh
blast.
yeah.
I'm sure he went slower with them.
Yeah, maybe. You can't go too fast for kids. They want to fly off, it seems
Oh,
like.
that's true.
Yeah.
That is true.
And they're all sopping wet and covered in mud by the end of the day. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Which is why you keep them in the shop.
yes. Yeah.
What fun. Okay. Any other particular things that you do at your house?
I mean, we do the typical, we're not always crazy. We do just typical family meals, birthday dinners. I'm a part of a book club, so I get to host that on rotation. That's really fun. We host some youth and children's ministry stuff. And a recent one that we've gotten to do is what we call prayer on the patio. Also, a spontaneous thing that happened a few years ago. A friend asked me to do it again this summer. We basically create a little prayer plan and kind of pray through concentric circles ourselves, our family, our community, our church, going further and further out, like to our nation and stuff. And we take 5 weeks in the summer just on a early morning before it gets too hot. Moms and their kids come, and we usually have some kind of a coffee cake, drinks and things, and the kids disperse and go play, and the moms pray together corporately for about an hour or more. It seems like we just kind of popcorn pray around and just get to pray together. And that's one of my favorite things that we do in the summer. You really get to know the heart of ladies when you hear them pray for specific things. It's just a really sweet time. Even to hear the kids in the background running around and eating popsicles and sweating and screaming. And, we kind of just chuckle mid prayer, and there's interruptions, and it's really informal, but it's a really sweet gathering, both for the kids and the moms. They played a lot of wiffle ball this summer while we prayed and got really competitive. So it's pretty chaotic with the kids, but they enjoy it and look forward to it. And we want kids to love to be in our home and to make memories here with us, with our kids, with one another, and then also just to build relationships. So it's a really good chance to get to know one another as moms, as a small group, maybe 6, 8, 10, 12 moms get together, depending on who's available and in town. But it's really, really sweet. The Rangers went to the World Series a few years ago and won it. So we had people over for a couple of games, and it was just crazy fun. Nothing special. We just try to take opportunities like that to say, hey, people probably want to do this. Let's just do it together. One of my favorite things that we've done is, I would call it a boot scoot, because none of these have happened in a barn. So barn dance without the barn. The first year when we lived in our travel trailer down at my in-laws, we just cleared the yard and hung up some lights, and everybody brought soups and chilies, and I made a playlist and everybody danced, and we had a slab board for our shop and nothing else. And it was fall, and we said, we have a giant dance floor. Let's borrow. I mean, I think on Saturday we decided we were going to do this, and we did it on Sunday. So I just threw together, y'all bring snacks and some bottled water. We'll borrow some speakers and plug it in and dance under the stars all night. So that was super duper fun, and we'd love to do that again.
That is a fun and spontaneous thing. Obviously, it is so much fun whenever you can just jump into something like that and not overthink it. Because a lot of times, if somebody was going to think of something like that, they would think all this planning and I have to fix this and I have to make sure of this. But if you just say, hey, if this is casual, like you said, bring bottled water, let's just do it, it'll happen and no stress at all.
Yeah, no, not for that. Now, some things can be stressful for sure, but yeah, we enjoyed it. We enjoy looking around and taking an opportunity. And of course, there's foresight that goes into it. We set up our place where kids will want to come to it and try to keep things tidy or whatever so that we can drop everything and just be hospitable. But it's not always fancy. It's just, oh, it's snowing. Let's get out the car hood. It's fall. Let's celebrate and enjoy time together. So, yeah, we do a mix of planned things and formal things. I do love to set a table and use real dishes. If you're eating a meal, we're trying to use real dishes. I don't have 130 plates, so we don't obviously always use real dishes. And so sometimes it's formal and intentional and a little bit more calm. And sometimes it's let's have some epic fun together.
You mentioned living in a travel trailer, and you still did hospitality during that time?
We did, but it looked quite different. So obviously in a travel trailer, we had a table that barely fit four. Our littlest had to climb into her chair from the back. It was so small, but we lived in it because we were at one part of it looking for a home, and then the other part of it, we were remodeling our home. So we lived in it for 3.5 years. So if we wanted to get people together, we had to be thoughtful. So that's where some of the fall party and snow day and boot scoot came out of, is let's get people together in a unique way. And so that has kind of continued in just the theme for us, is that hospitality doesn't always happen around a dinner table. I've got to throw in here, we call it supper. I don't know if you called it supper in Texas. No,
way back in the day.
Okay, so when you say supper, so I'm having to make myself. It's obviously called come over for dinner. So in my mind, dinner is like this formal gathering. Where supper, my girls ask me every day, Mom, what's for supper? What's for supper? So
yes, no, I did as a child. I don't really remember when I moved away from that. Now that you mentioned it, but a lot of older Southern people, or maybe just not necessarily Southern, but just older times, you mentioned dinner is just the biggest meal of the day. So lunch was often dinner, which I never did say. I grew up with lunch and supper, or lunch and dinner.
My dad still calls it dinner. When he says dinner, he means lunch. So it's funny.
Yeah. When they rang the dinner bell, it was at the noon time when everybody's starving from working out in the fields or whatever, and they ran in for the dinner bell. It was literally lunch.
Yeah.
I'm curious how we even got the term lunch. But anyway, that's a whole nother side note. Okay, so you were talking about, we totally went on a tangent. You were talking about having a different type of hospitality when you had just the travel trailer.
Yeah. So, we had to be thoughtful about how can we gather people? How can we feed people, get people together that's not in our tiny travel trailer? So that's where some of those fun ideas came from. And I think that theme just kind of stuck with us because we still to this day kind of think about hospitality a little bit outside of the box. And so one of the main ways we do nowadays, we happen to, by God's grace, be given a free 1999 boat that my husband grew up wakeboarding on. So one set of his grandparents always lived on the lake, and his aunt said, "You can have that boat if you fix it up." And he's very, very mechanically minded, very handy. So he and the girls scooped out about a foot of leaves and compost out of it, rotten life jackets. They cleaned it up, got the thing going, and we tubed all summer behind that boat 2 summers ago, or 3, however you do that. And my husband just really thrived in doing that. He said, I think this is a way that we can offer hospitality in a family that really jives with our personality. It can bless other people. We can make memories for other kids and for our own kids. And so we did about a summer and a half on that boat, and it broke down so many times while we were on the lake with it. And he said, I would like to find another cheap boat that could fit 2 other families, 2 other small families, or 1 other large family, that we could eat a meal on the boat and that we could tube until dark. And the Lord provided one for us earlier this summer that was broken. The engine was ruined, they said, and he came home and changed the oil and took some girls out on it that night. And so it's just been the biggest blessing to just, we live near a lake, a really small lake. So in 10 minutes, we can have the boat in the water. And we've enjoyed trying to be really intentional about taking families with kids out on the boat. So we end up bringing supper to the boat ramp. We'll eat either on a tailgate at the boat ramp or just bring it on the boat. Kids have eaten on the tube before. We load the cooler with drinks. We bring either some homemade pizza, or if life is busy, we just grab pizza or have people bring some things. We've done sandwiches and different meals. The main thing being, let's eat something and let's get on the water. So
Yeah.
kids have had such a fun time. We've had the funnest time offering hospitality as on the boat being an extension of our home. And so we've just made lots of memories and got to know people well. Kids have grown in daring things. We hook two tubes up, and kids start out afraid and they end up standing up with no hands and doing backflips off of the tube. And we just laugh and have a really good time. So that's one of the main ways recently in the summer. We're actually thinking, how long is it going to be warm enough to be able to do that? We try to do it as close to once a week as we can. Another way that we've thought, how do we facilitate fellowship even outside of our home, is we have the joy of helping facilitate a ski trip. So I guess probably another theme here is redneck. I don't know. Cheap. How do we have fun and do really awesome things for cheap? So we took a group of youth kids years ago to this place that's really, really cheap to ski. We got to ski in college some and really enjoyed it. So we said, how do we take these youth kids to do it? And ultimately, how do we get our girls on the slopes without, selling a kidney? So he found this place, and we have gone there every year since then. And we've taken a youth group and then families. Then we actually switched churches, went with some other friends for a while. And now a group from church goes with us every February. And last year, I think there were 65, and it's nothing fancy. It's really affordable though. And everybody brings food, and we rotate through doing meals together at night. Everybody does their own thing for breakfast and lunch. We gather together for supper, and families take turns cooking and prepping and serving and cleaning up. And it's a really, really awesome time. Again, for families to make memories, for us to get to know each other better, for kids to build relationship on the slopes and in the cabin at night, and just doing really interesting things, playing games and having a good time. And then probably the other one is, we live really close to the Brazos River here, and it's actually like really, really pretty there at the Brazos River Valley. There's a place you can go that's right below the dam at Possum Kingdom Lake that is cold and clear, which is not common for rivers out here. So we love to go as a family. We canoe it once a year, and we said, let's bring other people to this. It's just kind of something people don't know about. It's about a half hour, and started inviting people to come with us. And now our church every summer does we call it Redeemer on the River, where we just, all the families bring coolers and kayaks and life jackets. And we're kind of picnicking out of a cooler all day. And again, the kids are playing, we're visiting and connecting. And so it's really not become our thing anymore, which we're so grateful for. It's just kind of a tradition that's happened. And we love getting to gather people together, not just for fun and craziness. I'm actually pretty introverted, surprisingly, for probably how this sounds, but we enjoy just the opportunity for people to enjoy one another, for brothers and sisters in Christ to get to know one another. We gather Sunday and Wednesday at church, but there's only so much you can get to know one another in that time. You're busy, you're serving, you're doing, you're worshiping, you're trying to get home to lunch or get kids home for bed, where times like these, you can get to know people in a way that's just not possible 1 hour twice a week. And so, yeah,
Right.
it's just been really life-giving for our family. We really enjoy facilitating fellowship in that way.
It definitely sounds like you're creating deeper friendships and fellowship on all of these events. And I love so many of the out of the box type of things that you mentioned, because it doesn't have to be around a dinner table all
Mhm.
the time. All of the things you mentioned are so fun, would create such fun memories, and kids would love them. I mean, kids sometimes love a dinner party, but not the same as tubing or floating a river or anything
Mm-hmm.
like that. That would be the top of the list.
Yeah.
And you facilitating it is often what's needed. A lot of times,
Mm-hmm.
what's needed for something like that is just somebody to say, I'll make the plan, I'll
Yeah.
do the organization part.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's some advice my mom gave me way back in college. I was quite lonely my freshman year of college, just kind of sitting in the dorm. And I still remember this advice. She said, people want to get together. It just takes somebody to do it. And so, by God's grace, He's given us the desire to be facilitators of that. And we're certainly not experts in it. It just seems to be how the Lord has wired us. And we really enjoy getting to do that. And kids probably are what I have in the back of my mind every time we do any kind of gathering. So, we thought that we would have lots of children, and the Lord had different plans for us. And so, we vowed, okay, our table every night is not as full as we thought it would be, but by golly, it's going to be full as often as it can be. And so it just brings us so much joy for the running and the screaming and the sweating and the doing of fun things to get to be a part of that. It's like an extension of our family to us, and it's really, really a joy.
Absolutely. It's so funny that you've mentioned sweating multiple times with kids running around because it's so true. Texas is hot in the
Yes,
summertime.
yes, it
It's
is.
brutal,
Yes.
especially the further south you go. I lived in Texarkana for years, it's more more northeast. And Dallas was about 3 hours away, a little more. But it was always about 10 degrees hotter. I mean, you would look at the temperature and you just drive 3 hours south and the heat just starts
Mm-hmm.
going up.
Yep. And then you drive 3 more to us, and it's probably 10 degrees hotter.
Oh, that's tough. Before we move forward, a big thank you to the sponsors for supporting today's episode. Have you ever thought about how much science is involved in cooking? Chemistry, physics, and biology are at play all over your kitchen. On the cutting board, in the mixing bowl, on the stovetop, and in the oven. Inquisicook is on a mission to show students that science can be relevant, fascinating, and delicious, all while teaching an essential life skill. Inquisicook begins with the basics of food science and culinary arts, then adds skills and concepts in a carefully crafted sequence that leads to proficiency. Best of all, the principles can be applied to any cuisine, any available foods, and any dietary restrictions. So when it's time for people to come over for dinner, the options are endless. Visit inquisicook.com to view sample lessons, then check out the recipe gallery to see just how crave-worthy science can be. Pure and Lovely Tallow began with one mom's desire to find non-toxic and effective skincare that was safe for her whole family. That's when she discovered tallow, simple, nourishing, and incredibly healing for your skin. Each product is handcrafted in small batches with just a handful of wholesome ingredients, using organic and grass-fed tallow sourced from small Minnesota farms. Nothing more, nothing toxic, just the way skincare should be. Whether it's everyday moisture, calming an eczema flare-up, treating your baby's diaper rash, or soothing hard-working hands, Pure and Lovely Tallow is made for the whole family. Check out their whipped tallow, deodorant, lip balms, and more at pureandlovelytallow.com. And because you're listening here, use code BESS for 10% off at checkout. Let's jump into some of what you might serve if you are planning the meal yourself. I know a lot of times you're doing signups and people are bringing things. Of course, you might coordinate that too, where you're saying, this is the meal, bring these parts of the meal. But what are some of your favorite things you might serve?
Okay, so obviously the menu would vary depending on the gathering, the setting, or the season. But since we're going into fall and we're all feeling fallish, I thought one of my favorite things to serve, whether we're around the table or outside on a table or around the fire pit, would be just a good hearty soup with some yummy toppings and some bread. So my go-to for something like that is a cheeseburger soup. Really meaty potatoes, celery, carrots, and I like to top it with some cheese and some green onions. My husband does not prefer, I don't know, creamed butternut squash soup or something like that. So he likes a good hearty rib sticking kind of soup. So that's become our go-to for fall. I would try to serve it with some type of bread. Focaccia, I think that's how you say it, has become a fan favorite around here. Just a sourdough focaccia bread that you can dunk it in, and it just seems to be tasty and filling. I love when people scrape their bowls and go back for seconds, and that's one that always ends up happening in.
Any recipes that you have, we'll put on comeoverfordinner.com so everybody can access them. Do
Okay.
you have a certain site, or is this a family recipe that you go to?
No, the cheeseburger soup is actually a farmhouse on Boone. All of her recipes are just really simple and hearty, whole foods. And yeah, I find a lot of winners there, but the cheeseburger soup especially is one that we enjoy of hers. The focaccia, I have a cookbook called For the Love of Sourdough that was given to me, and I've made it several times, and it's just always turns out really yummy and crunchy on the outside and soft on the inside, some good salt on top, and my girls especially really love that.
I'll have to try that version. I tried a couple of different versions last year to compare side by side, and I think it was the lady who does the peasant bread that I've talked about on here, which is amazing. If you have not made it, it is so good. It's a yeast bread, but it's so simple, so delicious. It can be savory, where you're just sprinkling some salt and pepper and herbs on top and toast it with some butter, or or garlic butter bread, or you can do butter, honey butter, whatever. Anyway, she does focaccia, and I think that was the one that won for me. So I'll have to compare it
Nice.
compared to this one.
Nice.
I'll have to
Yeah.
make both of those and do side by side taste test.
Well, sometimes it turns out amazing, and then sometimes, sourdough has a mind of its own.
Sometimes you would want the yeast version where you're not having to do a sourdough starter, especially if you didn't have one. But I would
Sure.
love to try the sourdough version.
Hmm.
And then what do you serve for dessert?
So probably if I'm feeding a larger crowd, my go-to, even taking dessert to church, we do a Wednesday night meal together. And anytime I have dessert, Mrs. Sears makes a chocolate sheet cake, just your typical Texas sheet cake. I make 3 big pans of it, and it couldn't be easier. It's super fast. So even with a meal at home, if we were feeding, more than a family or two, a chocolate sheet cake is just always a win. I try to always have the ingredients on hand for that. So I can know, okay, I can at least make a chocolate sheet cake, and it feeds a lot of people. And yeah, always gets good reviews.
Sounds like a perfect menu. Do you serve anything else with it?
If somebody brought a salad or something, you could do that. But if we were especially trying to get outside, just a simple
Yeah.
bowl.
Soup, bread, and cake. Sounds great. Do you ever put out something ahead of time? Are you the type of person who puts out appetizers and drinks ahead of time, or do you just put drinks on the table? What's your
I,
go to with that?
I aspire to be sometimes getting everything ready and getting things, the rest of life done. It's like, okay, I made the meal, that's all. But sometimes if I've got things in the fridge, fruits or vegetables I could cut up with some hummus as people are arriving. Chips and salsa is always appropriate in Texas. So I'm not saying this pairs well with cheeseburger soup. I'm just saying we love chips and salsa.
If you wanted a little something before the dinner.
Yeah, yeah. Nobody would be sad about chips and salsa. So that's always a super appetizer, especially if you're making Mexican food. I make it by the half gallon. So we eat a lot of salsa. And I mean, obviously, fruit is a great thing to set out. We just try to have drinks as soon as people get there, offer them something to drink when they first arrive. And if we have appetizers, great. I don't always plan for one though.
All right. Do you have any shortcuts or time savers that you would use?
I wish that I did. So this is not a strength of mine. I'm just slow. So if I'm having people over, getting things tidied up and getting the meal made, sometimes I take all day. I've heard ladies on your podcast say 30 minutes before they get, things together. And that's just not
You're like,
me.
how? This is impossible.
No, no, yeah. I mean, even the chopping, the sheer number of potatoes in this soup, it's a process. So I guess probably my best tip would be to involve your children. We've tried from the beginning to think of hospitality as something we offer as a whole family, especially with our children being girls. We want them to grow up being familiar with the concept and the skills, even to have people in their home. We want them to understand the heart behind it. It gives them just experience to be able to know what it takes to feed a lot of people and to prep food and prepare your home, and that we do that out of love for other people and just the biblical command to be hospitable. And also, I'm in the kitchen. I love for them to be in the kitchen with me, peeling and chopping and setting things out, and even having them help brainstorm. How could we make this special? How could we make it fun? And they've always seemed to thrive in being a part of it. I think kids do want to help and they do want to be a part of it. And so I would be totally lost without their help on so many levels. So they're probably my best shortcut and time saver. Else I would be in the kitchen a whole lot longer.
I think we all need a 10 and 12-year-old girl to help.
Yes.
I miss that. I miss having my kids in the kitchen.
Yes.
They are a huge help. And it gives them the skills. You mentioned lots of good things, but it gives them the skills to be able to get better and better and better and be even more of a help as the years go by, to the point where they can just get in there and take charge.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of our goal for them is for them to leave our home ready to manage a home and to be hospitable, whatever their home looks like. So however we can train them up, oftentimes it's just come beside me and do what I'm doing and do it with me. And for one, we enjoy it, but for two, we really do want them to grow in those skills and it not be foreign to them when they grow up.
Yes, for sure. What is your best prep tip when you're having people come over to your house?
So I, for one, just enjoy listening to your podcast so much. I binge listened to a lot to be prepared and thoughtful of how to answer these questions. And so I have learned a lot, even just from listening to what other ladies have said. A couple of things that I do that were on my list, but I feel like so many ladies have covered super well. One, just paring down and keeping tidy, whatever your comfort level is. It may be different for other people. Some people don't care at all what is on their counters, and some people don't want a speck of dust. So whatever your comfort level is, pared down so that tidying up is not difficult, and keep tidy so that you're always ready for guests. We read a lot of old books and you hear of someone stopping by and saying, "Oh, come in, eat dinner with us, spend the night, we'll make a cake real quick," or something that inspires me. I want people to be able to come over and it not send me into a frenzy or, make our family angry at each other, at the thought of having people over.
Or you're mortified because the house is a total disaster.
Yes. Yeah. And the second one that other people have covered is just keeping a stocked pantry. So you're always able to make something. For me, that involves meal planning, keeping an inventory of what we have. I'm not perfect at this at all. Ask my mother-in-law. I send the girls down all the time to borrow something from her, but I aim to do that so that there's always something I can make. Travis, we will just have last minute ideas of let's do this. And I'm like, okay, what do I have? I could make a sheet cake. I could make a loaf of bread or something. So keeping food on hand. So really just the idea that hospitality doesn't take you by total surprise. You're at least somewhat ready to offer some sort of hospitality. But I guess the two maybe unique ideas that I would say are a prep tip for me is the first one is we have drawers. When we remodeled our kitchen, we put drawers and they are just life-changing, big old deep drawers instead of cabinets. So we have one at our coffee bar drink area that is what we call the party drawer. And so that's where I keep paper plates, bowls, to-go items, utensils, even party little banners, birthday party candles, and things like that, so that I'm not going to be caught, lacking paper plates or things that would be necessary for a larger group. If you come over, I feel real strongly about let's eat on real dishes. I can wash them, no problem. I even love to use my grandmother's china, but there is a time and space. Grand's china doesn't need to be swirling around on the merry-go-round. So having paper party supplies and stuff that are ready to go in like a big stock of it so that I know that it's in there is really helpful to spring something last minute or to grab and throw on the boat or throw in the cooler. And then the second one would be I started a couple years ago keeping a list on my phone and just in the notes app of names of families in our church. And not to be legalistic or, that we're not thinking, oh, we really love so and so, we want to have them over. That we do that also, but just to help us be intentional about including larger, cross sections of people that we may not be as inclined to have over. We can just kind of keep track. I just have the little check bubbles that say, okay, we've had so and so over. Let's go further down the list to someone we maybe perhaps haven't had over yet. And that helps us when we're thinking, okay, we want to offer hospitality this week. Let's look at the list and see who. I mean, we've gone to church with these families for coming on 5 years, and there are people we still haven't had over, and that really makes us sad, and we hate that. I mean, everyone's invited to large events, but just around the table. And so that is a way we want to kind of mitigate that problem by keeping a list.
Oh, that's a great organizational tip, especially if you have a church where it's a little bit smaller where you could eventually have all the families over.
Hmm.
I've had that thought of the church we're in currently is large enough where that would be almost impossible. I think at some point I've kind of realized, well, you're never going to get to know everybody
Right.
just real well on a deep level. But it's still an interesting thought of how, I don't know. I mean, maybe you have some insight in that. Like, how do you think through who you're going to have over? Because you don't always just want to invite your friends over every
Right.
time. But I have had that thought of like maybe people we meet or know of or friends of friends, and just kind of just grab the people that do come into our sphere of
Hmm.
influence. I don't know, because the church we have now, there's 3 services now. So
Wow. Yeah. I think
it's
actually a
difficult.
newer family to our church asked about this. She said, why every time I go to someone's house is there always two families? And I said, interesting observation. I think it's because you want to, like, if I tried to have one family over at a time, I think I did the math. It would take us 3 years to have everybody over if we did it
Yeah.
once a week. And so to
Yes.
double up
Yeah.
and think, okay, who has kids the same age? Who maybe needs to get to know each other more, or who knows each other well that would be more comfortable coming to our home, and doubling or tripling up and having kind of a larger group where you're not just getting to know them, but other families are getting to know one another. I think that's helpful. And then
Yes.
I think it's also helpful if the church itself has this culture of hospitality where the church
Yeah.
is teaching top down that hospitality matters, so that you're not the only family trying to do this. You think, well, we didn't
Sure.
have so and so over, but I know they've been around so and so's table recently, so that
Yeah.
if multiple families are doing this together, people are getting together. It just may not be, you know, around your table.
Absolutely. I know our community is so good at that. And so I have had that thought of like, there's so many people who are doing this constantly every week, and
Hmm.
yeah, they're always in fellowship with each other, or some sort of group. It's not like it's on me to have every single
Right.
person over that ever was. So,
Hmm.
but it is interesting because I've thought, about making a list. I'm like, oh dear, where do I even start or end? Just as a side note, the pastor's wife of a church in Texas that has just exploded in numbers, she had the same idea. Like if we ever had each family over one time, plus there are families joining all the time, where it was like, it's going to take us 3 years. It's just impossible. So they ended up doing group events like you're talking about, and kind of new member events where they're anybody that's joined in the last
Yeah.
month or 2 months or however often they do it, come to our house. But it's multiple families. But it also facilitates new people getting to know other people.
Right.
So,
Hmm. Yeah.
that's a side note. But I think that's, yeah, different depending on the size of your church. I think that that's a really interesting way to look at it. Like, okay, can we do one family each? Like, because we came from a smaller church, and you could have done that. You could have
Hmm.
had a list of every single family and done every single family, or maybe doubled up. But in a bigger church, you kind of have to look at it a little bit differently.
The heart behind our gatherings, sometimes the larger gatherings are less about us specifically getting to know people intimately, but we feel like what we observe, me being, probably an extroverted introvert, so I make all this happen, and then I want to go hide in my bedroom when everybody shows up.
You're the planner, the
Yeah,
facilitator.
yeah. Sometimes I'll like step back and I'll be watching out the kitchen window as I'm getting something out, and I'm watching, and there's groups of people getting to know one another. And I may never know the connections that people are making, but the larger gatherings, it offers people a place and a time to do that and make connections I may never be a part of other than making the place for
Sure.
it. So a large gathering
Right.
accomplishes that. But then the intimate gatherings, that's where our heart is. Tell us your story. How'd you meet? tell us your testimony. How did the
We
Lord
want to
save
get to
you?
know you better.
Yeah, yeah, and deepen that relationship with one another. So yeah, there's a place for both. And if you want to have the whole church over at once, just get some porta potties and have them all over.
Right. Absolutely. Sounds fun. Those are great ideas. So, what is your best advice for making people feel welcome when they come into your home? Besides some of the things you've already said, you've mentioned numerous things. Do you have anything you'd add to that?
I would say, so I interviewed my husband about all of this because I was like, what do we do? I don't know. He gave a really good answer, I thought. It was to create a laid back atmosphere. The first way that we would do something like that is, I kind of already have talked a good bit about this, but welcoming children. So from the first time we walked around our property to buy it, after I cried all night, knowing how much work it was going to be, the second thought was, let's make this a place where children especially love to be. And so we prayed, like, Lord, every acre of this place is yours. The home is yours, the outside, the yard, the woods, all of it. Like, help us to make this a place where people want to be, where people want to connect, but it's specifically kids. And I feel like the Pied Piper sometimes. Let's woo the children to our home to make memories and have a good time. So for children to feel welcome, I feel like families feel welcome. And so when there are things, when they walk in the door, a shy new group of kids, I can say, hey, here's all the things that you can go do, and you can go do any of it, and you're not going to hurt anything. This is designed for you to have fun. There's kittens. We've got some kittens right now, or whatever we have going on. All of that's available to you. Go do that. Where I think they feel really welcome. The parents feel like, okay, I don't have to watch them like a hawk. They're not going to hurt anything. And so I think when kids feel welcome, they're having a good time, and mom and dad are able to settle in more deeply and have conversation when they feel like their kids are taken care of. And then the second thing would be, this was all Travis's idea, to not have an end time, to be thinking, we're having people over, we're offering hospitality, we're not planning anything after that, because sometimes people need to get home for bed and for naps or whatever they need to do. And some families need to stay until midnight and cry on your couch or laugh, over dessert or something. And so we don't want to hold them hostage, but if we can tell a family is wanting to stay, they're not trying to get up and go, let's put on the kettle, let's add a log, let's pull out some, grapes or some kind of pop some popcorn, and the kids can have flashlights and run around, or if we're inside, they can keep playing Legos or whatever they're doing, and just following the lead of your guest to say, you're welcome here and you're welcome here as long as you need to be here. I feel like that makes people feel welcome. I would not call myself like an etiquette expert. I've actually heard some things on the podcast and thought, uh-oh, I probably do that. I shouldn't do that. So, I love to, be formal and offer a drink and things like that. But we've found that the laid back atmosphere seems to make people feel welcome and comfortable.
Those are great ideas. What is your must have kitchen item and where can we find it?
Well, you're out of luck on the first one because I don't know where one could find this. So this is
Oh,
so
dear.
this is so random. I don't know how everybody doesn't have it. And maybe people have some form of this. So I meant to bring it to show you. This is what I call my Africa mat, but I did some research before this to make sure I was understanding what this actually is. So Travis has an aunt and uncle who are missionaries in Africa for decades. And she, when we first got married, got me this basket. It's a flat basket. A lot of times you'll see them hung on the walls. What it is, it's a winnowing basket that they would use to sift the chaff from the grain. So you would put the grain on the basket. It's probably about 18 inches in diameter and pretty flat, but it does have, a curve on the edge, and it's used in Africa for various things, grinding different things, but winnowing is what it's for, and it's called a tubug is the African name for it. And what I use it for, though, is anytime I'm cutting anything up, I've got my mat beside me, my tubug beside the cutting board for chopping and scraps. So I'm cutting things up and I just put it on that so that there's no mess. So that if I'm composting, I'll take it all and throw it out to the chickens or dump it in the compost bin. Or if I'm not, I'll just throw it in the trash. But it's how I keep the counter clean. And often I have a mound of, you know, scraps and things on it from
Sure.
chopping and prepping.
Okay, I have to see a picture of this at some point because I
Okay.
have no idea what you're talking about. But
Okay,
it
I
sounds
can.
like something that would be very useful. Or
Yeah.
maybe even we could find a product that would work in this similar way.
Yeah. I mean, a bowl would suffice. People probably use a bowl just for your scraps and things. But when I don't
Uh-huh.
have that, I just pile stuff on the counter and it's a big mess to clean up. I mean, I'm putting eggshells on it, whatever it is that I'm
Right.
working with. Sometimes I'll even put trash on it to the side and just throw away the trash and carry the rest outside. But I would be lost without that. I really, really enjoy using that just for cleanup. But the second would be my dust mop. So, I've had one from Sam's. The current one I have is from Norwex, and basically what it is, it's just like in a gym at a basketball court. Halftime, they've got the big old dust mop. They're just pushing around the court to get everything cleaned up. This is just a smaller, cuter, probably version of that. And it's microfiber. It's got little fingers on it that catch dust. And I use it every day at home, but it's especially nice after a large gathering. I'm barefoot inside all the time, and I don't like things to stick to my feet. So people leave, we get out the dust mop and just sweep. We've got a lot of open floors, so we just have this route that we walk sweeping, and we shake it off into a pile and vacuum it up real quick with the cordless vacuum. And so I don't even have a broom inside, like a regular old kitchen broom. I've got one for outside, but for inside, the dust mop is what I use. It just grabs everything. A broom will leave behind things. This just grabs it all and put it in a pile and we vacuum it up. And especially
That
when there's
sounds
been a lot of,
fantastic.
yeah, when there's been a lot of people in and out, the floors used to be what stressed me out. I don't want to, wake up first thing the next day and have to vacuum and mop and all of that stuff. This a lot of times can get me by until the next time.
You have it on your list of things to do.
Yeah, yeah. And, we have a robot vacuum too. If it's extra bad, I'll dust mop and then run the robot vacuum. And that really can tide you over till you're really able to clean up after an event. So I really appreciate both of those
Right.
things.
Do you have to clean the dust mop head regularly? Like, do you throw it in the washing machine or does it just go and go and go?
I probably don't wash it often enough, but I use my fingers just to rake hair and things off of it that gets built up. But there's a brush that you can use to brush it off with. But I also just periodically will run it through, shake it out and run it through the washer and dryer.
That sounds like a great product. I'm going to have to look into that. And I'll put a link on the shop page too so
Okay.
we can see what it is you're talking about. I've heard Norwex is a great brand.
It is, yeah. And it's a little bit more expensive. I had one for years that I got at Sam's Club. Similar idea, just the microfiber fingers that pick up everything. So wherever you could find it,
Hmm.
it's really good.
Yeah, there's options out there. All right. I bet you have some really great stories from all of your years of hospitality. So jump in and tell us some of the most memorable stories that you have.
Okay. This was really hard because I couldn't think of, major faux pas or things like that. I don't know. Maybe these are all faux pas. I don't know. It seems like the theme. I interviewed my family at the table the other day and said, what funny stories do we have? Several of them center around animals. And I guess it's just, nature. I don't know. So we've had a family over. We're sitting around the fire pit outside, and one of our cats was very pregnant. And we could tell she was getting close. And she started building a nest in this guy's lap. He thought she was just kind of loving on him. He's not really a cat guy. And I thought, oh, I think she's trying to have her kittens. And he tried to shove her off and she wouldn't get off his lap. And he finally got her off. He's trying to be really kind. And minutes later, we go inside for the evening and she had them on the back rug of our back porch. So if he would have sat there long enough, she would have started having kittens in his lap. Another time at my youngest,
Interesting.
yeah, at my youngest last birthday party, we did outdoor movie night, and the girls all went on a walk on the trails while we were finishing up getting supper ready. And they came back running and screaming, which is terrifying to me. What happened? Is somebody hurt? What's going
Yes.
on? And it turns out there was a deer that had tried to jump our fence and got her leg tangled and was like hanging, and she had
Oh,
been there for a
no.
long time. And the girls, some girls, this was nothing to them. Other girls, this was tragic and really hard for them to see.
Traumatizing.
Yes, and I felt so terrible. And they came up and told Daddy, and Daddy had to go down and put her down just to be humane to her. She was suffering a lot.
Wow.
And I thought, oh my, what are these girls going to go home and tell their parents about this party? And then another time, our dog had to be taken away for emergency surgery while my girls are crying frantically, and a dozen kids are circled around them watching the whole thing happen. But she's great. She's okay. But that was traumatic. But I would say, aside from animals, probably the funniest thing that's happened, this free boat that we have, we named her the It'll Do, is what her name
Back
is.
to the boat.
Yeah,
It'll
yeah.
do. I love it.
Her name is It'll Do. And after the first time she broke down with families on it, I added the tagline, till it don't. So it'll do till it don't. And one other time, so the first time she didn't, we had to flag somebody down on the lake. We had been on the lake for 5 minutes with a large family, and we had to be towed off by a random guy. But the second time it happened, we had another family with us, and we had to make them help us swim the boat back to the boat ramp. So the dad's on front, my husband is paddling, we're on the back kicking and trying to propel the boat and swim it all the way back to the boat ramp. And it was really fun. We got to tube for a while, but then we didn't, and we just had a good time dragging an old boat, back to the ramp. And yeah, it was a mishap, but it's a really fun memory that we enjoy talking about and laughing about.
That's pretty great. That reminds me of a time, I don't remember all the details, but my husband had an older fishing boat and something happened where he was just dead in the water and something broke. And somebody came along, thankfully, that had something, something brand new and fancy and did help him get back to the wherever he needed to go, I guess the shore or boat ramp. And the guy had pulled out a tow rope and had hooked him up, and they got back, and Brian's unhooking the rope and handing it back to him. And the guy's just kind of like, oh, it's okay. You keep it. Like, you need it more than I do.
That's too funny.
My husband was a little mortified. He's like, I just didn't say that I have an old rope in here too. I took the tow rope.
That's too funny.
He was already walking off, but he was just kind of like, oh, no, you need it. You need the tow rope more than I do.
That's hilarious.
Keep it, bud. Yeah, my husband has dealt with old boats most of his life. And it's just funny because he's like, it's not a camping trip or a fishing trip unless you're fixing something out on the water.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
There's always a story.
Yeah. And, we've always tried to think, like, how can we do these things in an affordable way? And that often ends up being we get old stuff and fix it up. And that comes with it. But it also gives us the ability to do things we wouldn't otherwise be able to do. So I'm grateful for a handy
Sure.
husband, and it makes funny stories and good memories.
Yes, absolutely.
I would hate for this to sound like, we have all hospitality figured out and we're the best at it. That's not our heart. I think a pastor said one time how much they loved offering hospitality, and he jokingly said, I don't think I'm going to be rewarded for this in heaven because we love it so much. That's how we feel about the way we offer hospitality. Is we enjoy and we love this type of hospitality. Feel like it's the way that the Lord has wired us, and just kind of lean into some things we already love to do and just bring people along to do it with us. But in no way do we feel like we nail it or we do it as often as we like or in all of the ways that we would like. We're not perfect. We're often way too busy. We're not always intentional with our time and offering just regular everyday hospitality. A few big events and things, or a night on the boat or something is awesome, but we do still want to have, families without children over around our table, have the whole church over if we could, our neighbors. This is probably one of the ways that I want to grow the most. We are in relationship with our neighbors, but we just keep putting off having them in our home, and we want to grow in that. Young single women. So yeah, I would say we are thriving in some ways of hospitality, and yet we still have so much more to grow in. And that's where I am so grateful for people who are faithful at offering hospitality, reading about things in books. There's been some influential authors that have given me vision for hospitality. There's my background and family that I've learned things from, or people that we currently go to church with. But I think too, for you, Bess, like what you're doing on the podcast is so helpful for younger women like me who are still building our repertoire and still trying to learn ways that we can carry out the biblical command of hospitality. I'm way down here in Texas. I know my sisters-in-law love listening to this podcast too, because we are hungry to learn better ways that we can bring people together and show them the love of Christ and carry out that biblical command. So it can look different in lots of different ways. My husband said the other night, he said, there's always food of some sort, but sometimes the table looks different. Find a dinner table and get people around it. So I'm grateful for the ways I'm learning how to do that through your podcast and the ladies that you have on. So thank you.
Thank you so much. I love it when I do hear people talk about listening to the podcast, growing from it, because that is my goal. I feel like I learn and grow every time I host a podcast because, as you mentioned, so many people have different perspectives and different ideas and, of course, different recipes and things that are encouraging and inspiring. Sometimes I feel like I am just so sick of cooking. I don't have anything I know how to cook. So somebody mentions something and it just inspires me to get back in there and or to do a different type of hospitality, and just all the things that encourage a person to keep following the biblical command, get out there, be hospitable to people. It can look lots of different ways. And so it does encourage me a lot to hear people who are also encouraged and who love it and who are benefiting from it, because that is the goal. That is the ultimate goal. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been so much fun to hear all of your tips, all of your recipes, all of your ideas. I cannot wait to share this episode with all of my listeners.
Thank you, Bess.
Until next time, bye for now. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to follow the show and leave a review. It helps new people be able to find the podcast. And if you enjoyed this conversation especially, be sure to share it with a friend. Thank you for your time.